Washington has created so many laws and so many regulations that virtually anybody in America can be prosecuted for a federal crime for breaking a law they never heard of. It's happening to people all across the country, including the head of one of the most famous businesses. John Jessup has the story. This is part 3 of our explosive series, A Nation of Criminals.
Henry Jeskowitz first picked up the guitar as a kid, inspired by the Beatles. His journey to the top of the music industry captures the idea of the American dream, saving a legendary company from going out of business, Gibson Guitars.
I think we have the best people and we have the best guitars.
He's become the face of Gibson, a position that's put him within reach of famous names, ranging from entertainment...
Well, you've got some pretty big-time friends. I see Tony Bennett up there.
...to the world of politics. But these days, he's often strumming the blues, with his company mired in the middle of not one, but 2 federal investigations.
Early in the morning, I got a call at home from Leanne. She said, there are 5 government guys in your office.
The most recent happened last August, when armed special agents from the Fish and Wildlife Service and the Department of Homeland Security raided their factories and corporate offices. They removed computer hard drives, records, and about $1 million worth of equipment and raw material without any explanation.
They said they couldn't tell me because that was sealed. I said, you're here with guns and you can't tell me why? And they said, that's right.
5 months later, Gibson still knows very little about the investigation. Jeskowitz has been vocal, calling the government a big bully, abusing its power and violating his legal rights in due process.
We have had no charges filed, and we've had disastrous impact on our business.
Now, the Gibson investigation centers on the material used to make their fingerboards. It's not so much about the finished product as it is their raw material. This is Indian rosewood, and while the material itself is perfectly legal to import, what's at dispute is the thickness of the wood.
The issue hinges on a 100-year-old wildlife anti-trafficking law called the Lacey Act. In 2008, Congress amended the law to include a broad range of plant products, making it illegal to import, export, transport, sell, receive, acquire, or purchase any plant taken in violation of the laws of a U.S. state or any foreign law that protects plants. Gibson argues that it did its best to comply with the laws in each case that sparked an investigation, using wood certified by the Independent Forest Stewardship Council.
Both India and Madagascar, whose laws the government is citing in this prosecution, say that we've done everything legally.
Jeskowitz says unelected environmental attorneys at the Justice Department think otherwise and appear to be working toward a conviction for using the wrong tariff codes for the wrong size of wood, a conviction that could result in huge fines and the possibility of prison time. And if you think the government is going after Gibson because it's a multi-million-dollar corporation, you're wrong. They go after the little guy too. Just ask Krister Evertson.
One moment I'm making plans what to do, and then the next moment I'm staring down the barrels of machine guns.
From the age of 9, he became fascinated by science, earning awards and winning prizes for his work. He eventually started his own company, working to make hydrogen fuel cells more efficient. But in May 2004, he says his American dream turned into a nightmare when 2 SUVs filled with SWAT agents ran him off the road and arrested him.
The only thing that mattered was, what are they going to do with me? Are they going to throw me in jail? Are they going to let me go? Are they going to shoot me?
And what did he do? He attached the wrong shipping label to a package of raw sodium he sold on eBay, a violation of the Hazardous Material Transportation Act. That charge was a technicality which Everson fought and won. While a jury acquitted him, the government wouldn't give up. It brought in the EPA and decided to charge him for breaking an environmental law, claiming sealed supplies worth more than $100,000 were toxic waste. Krister spent a total of 1.5 years in prison and says his American nightmare left him with plenty of doubts about government overreach.
I told them, look, I'm doing a good thing here. They don't care. Matter of fact, they took words that I use and turned it around on me. And if anything doesn't fit that agenda, even the truth, they don't care.
These aren't just isolated incidents. The number of people put in federal prisons has exploded in just the last 2 decades. Many of them caught in a web of federal laws that they didn't even know were crimes. It's all part of what's called over-criminalization, where even minor offenses can now be punished with criminal penalties. And the number of potential violations is constantly growing, with a whopping 59,000 new federal laws since 1996. Critics point to Congress for imposing far too many of these penalties and laws and regulations that cover virtually every part of life. But many in Congress don't realize the impact of these laws when it's time to cast their votes.
So if I apply this law to this process in Congress, I say they're guilty. It doesn't matter that they didn't know. Put them in jail.
Experts say over-criminalization and overzealous enforcement of laws like the Lacey Act not only breed contempt for the justice system, they say it's bad for business.
It has an effect on anyone who owns the company. It has an effect on the employees who work at the company. If it's a publicly held company, it has an effect on the shareholders.
Timothy O'Toole, a Washington-based attorney specializing in federal criminal laws, says he's had business clients who've been spooked by the vast network of laws and regulations.
Some of them have just decided it's not worth it. That is, it looked like the foreign market would be very profitable for them, but because of all of the additional requirements that would then apply to the American companies, they just decide not to do it.
So those requirements and regulations hurt American businesses, profits, and job growth. The Small Business Administration estimates regulations cost the economy $1.7 trillion a year. The case against Gibson carries wider implications, affecting other music and furniture makers and any company that uses rare wood.
So it causes you to say, why Gibson?
And have you gotten any answers on that?
No, we have not.
Tennessee Congressman Marsha Blackburn is backing legislation that would fix the problems companies like Gibson are facing.
There is a company, an iconic American company, who creates a product here, and they are facing the uncertainty and the overreach and the heavy hand of the federal government, and it is completely standing in the way of their ability to do their job.
Jeskowitz is a conservationist, and he still supports the overall goal of the Lacey Act to preserve and protect wildlife. But he warns if the law stands uncorrected, it could create even more victims of federal prosecution when it comes to declaring wood-based products Americans carry while traveling.
So if you had a guitar and lipstick, that's 2 separate forms. And they could fine you $100,000 each, confiscate each, and then up to 1 year in prison for filling the form out incorrectly.
He says that's why he's taking a stand and speaking out, trying to make sure America remains the sweet land of liberty and not a nation of criminals.
Democracy means that each and every one of us is responsible for this country and what happens. If we don't have citizens that stand up and become part of the process to make it better, then we deserve what we get.
John Jessup, CBN News, Nashville.
You wouldn't believe it was possible. Gibson Guitars, think of that. And some poor scientist trying to make a better world, and he winds up with 18 months in prison for failing to fill out the forms properly. I mean, what kind of nonsense are we engaged in? My suggestion is very simple. To the next president, he needs to issue an executive order nullifying all the agency regulations that carry criminal sanctions. Every one of them. Just nullify them. And release from prison everybody that's been in prison on the basis of agency rules that go beyond legislation. And then there needs to be a concerted push to simplify the federal code, because we are in danger of losing our freedom and our liberty because of what's being done. And it's not just marijuana. That's part of it, and a big part of it, but it's all these other things that are just crazy. Terry, isn't that shocking? Aren't you shocked?
It's incredibly shocking, and that attitude exists in such depth in these agencies that people feel like it's okay to pull up armed in 2 SUVs, not just pull up, but run somebody off the road. And I mean, we live in America, for heaven's sakes. That's ridiculous.
They did that in Nazi Germany. They did it in communist Russia. And we have more people incarcerated in our jails here in America than Joseph Stalin had at the height of his terror in Russia. We've got to fix it.